All right, go ahead. Councilmember Parks scheduled to join me. Councilmember Cardenas is another committee, and Councilman Zine, the chair of the committee, Personnel Committee, and we have one item on the agenda.
That item was continued from October 7, and that is a motion relative to testimony from employees of the Department of Animal Services and the representatives and other members of the public, and this is regarding their concerns about the management of the department.
Okay, we have cards from last time that we're going to call upon for comments. The announcement I'm going to make is direction from the City Attorney's Office. The committee will refrain from taking any action or making recommendations as to Boakes, given that an unfair is pending, and given that the Personnel Committee has no jurisdiction to take any specific action against Mr. Boakes. The committee does not have the authority to evaluate Mr. Boakes or to direct how the department is managed. Consequently, the complaints should not be responded to with direct action, may request a report on a specific program or matter, may not seek explanation from Mr. Boakes relative to the complaints against him, free to refer the accusations to the mayor's office for appropriate action. And that is the direction we'll follow. So we had testimony from employees last meeting. We've had 3 meetings since last time handling personnel issues, and this is the meeting that we've called for one item on animal services, and that's what this meeting will be directed toward, simply on that one subject. So we will start with, and we're going to have time on the clock, since we have approximately 30 speakers, 25 speakers. Okay, so this is what we have, unless anyone else wishes to speak. If you wish to speak, fill out a card. If there's no card, we will not have you speak. For the committee, I'm now being joined by my distinguished colleague, Councilmember Bernard Parks. Our first speaker will be Laura Beth Hyson. Laura Beth. And let's do 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Yeah, we'll do 3. So please refrain from repeating comments made by previous speakers. We're going to give each one of you 3 minutes for your comments, so take it away. And the clock will start when you're ready.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Clock will start.
Good afternoon.
Thank you.
I'm Laura Beth Hyson. For the first time ever, the employees and the public are united in begging for new management we can trust at LA Animal Services. I'd like to address the excuses which Ed Boakes and Linda Barth would like you to believe for why we are all wrong. First one, it's the foreclosures. But unweaned kitten intake is up from the prior year by 36.83%, according to the 2008 statistical summary that was just released, from 5,355 to 7,327 unweaned kittens. Unweaned kitten euthanasia is up by 45.41% from last year. Unweaned kittens are not the result of foreclosures. Unweaned kitten intake is the result of failed or non-existent community outreach and spay-neuter policy. Next excuse, we have no money to do anything with a $24 million budget. But the city controller audited and found that Boakes and Barth failed to manage their resources. For example, they failed to collect $2 million in fees just by not bothering. Next one. All this discontent and turmoil wastes more than just what happens at the bottom line of animal services. It wastes valuable time. Do you, council members, like taking all these calls from the community, very concerned about what's going on at animal services? The city council and the mayor have to take time to monitor what Ed Boakes is doing. LA Animal Services staff take time on ideas that go nowhere. Another excuse is that it's the employee's fault. Well, employee productivity does suffer when there's ever-changing rules, lack of written policies, and the huge increase in impounds that they have to care for under this regime. And their devastated morale working for someone in whom they have no faith. But if it's the employee's fault, which I certainly don't think it is, then my question is, isn't it Boakes and Barth's job to manage the employees? And if managing the employees is not their job, then what are they doing? Another excuse is that it's only a few disgruntled people that we keep hearing from. Well, look around this room. It's more than a few, And the people in this room represent just a small part who were able to make it today because it is a work day. Let's look at the results. This year, according to the statistics posted on Animal Services website, dog and cat intake was up by 20.52%. This year, according to the LA Animal Services 2008 statistical summary just released, and I quote, the euthanasia rate for dogs and cats rose by 30% compared to 2007. When normalized, whatever that is, to account for the 20.5% increase in intakes, the euthanasia rate rose by 3%. 19,617 dogs and cats were euthanized in 2008. Even using the normalized euthanasia rate, increasing at 3% a year, how long will it take until we're close to no kill? We'll never get there. It's said that we should stick with this failed management team because no one can do better. I think that's an insult to the animals, the city, and the city budget. Ed Boakes has time to chase publicity, but not for planning an essential spay-neuter program. Disrespect for authority and people. These things are not normal, and these things are not acceptable. A different manager would not do these things. Of course, someone else can do better. Please, help the animals, the budget, and your constituents, and tell the mayor we need new management at Animal Services. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we get the clock to light on this side so I can see the numbers countdown?
I cannot control it. They see it here.
I know. Can we control it?
I cannot control it.
No, but can we turn it on? How come it's...
That's the way it did.
All right, because it's nice to see it count down, but, all right.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, no, because it's nice to see it.
I don't know why it was
All right.
that way.
The next speaker, Bonfitti? Juliana?
Hello. Good afternoon. Thank you all for providing us with an opportunity to speak. I could give you a list of all the wrongs: squandered money, millions lost in revenue, according to the city controller, lives of innocent animals compromised and lost with euthanasia going up, not down, a spay-neuter law that is not enforced, which Mr. Boakes and his AGM did not bother with an effort to back up with education and or outreach. And all of this continues to take place under the Boakes-Barth regime. But you've been hearing about this for a couple years already, and it begs the question, what will come of it? Why are we here? Is this all for show? Providing a release valve for us to come to vent means nothing if nothing comes of it. The serious problems with LAAF's upper management have been brought to the attention of the mayor since at least mid-2006 by myriad people as more and more people see the truth and want a management change. Your own council offices have been contacted by constituents about troubles at LAS far out of proportion to what they should be, and council has to step in to right the wrongs done by Boakes and Barth. We won't soon forget Pitbull Academy. All this, and to date, we hear the mayor is trying to quiet complaints instead of solving them. I take offense by the mayor's notion that a constituent concerned about how, or as this case in point, if our government is working and where our tax dollars are going, might be subject to profiling as a radical, an extremist, or a union member before our concerns are addressed, much less heard. What place does this dismissing of our concerns have in this matter, where pure facts reveal the simple truth? We have, for 3 years now of experience, the controller's audits, the increases in euthanasia, employees putting their jobs at risk, so hopeless and ignored by the mayor that they came begging to you for help, and the public routinely telling you that Boakes and Barth are obstacles, not leaders, waiting for the quote-unquote extremists to stop their protests, for the unions to stop wanting leadership that does not create confusion and demoralization, or for the public to stop caring about where millions of their tax dollars have gone, is merely an excuse to do nothing. As these meetings and all the ongoing complaints show, it is essential that a major change happens and happens yesterday. I understand that the council does not have the power to fire Mr. Boakes and Ms. Barth. You are, however, the only accessible conduit to the person who does, the mayor. Those of us who care have been rendered powerless by this regime. The upcoming election provides no leverage, and we are at a loss. The mayor's office should be concerned that through its gross inaction in the face of obvious mismanagement and waste, that the public will inevitably question what other departments are similarly being neglected. What is it going to take to cure this gross and obvious breach of public trust? You are our only hope. If 5 people tell the mayor that his house is on fire, does he have one of his staff members run a credit check? Does he let the house burn because he does not like the person warning him or that person's associates? That the voices of so many concerned citizens continue to be dismissed is ignorant, arrogant, outrageous, and anathema to good and worthy leadership. It seems to me that what people are asking for here is for Mayor Villaraigosa to exercise the responsibility his job title confers. If this is too much to ask, perhaps he should fire himself as well. My request is for you to bring this to the full city council for a vote of no confidence, or put a charter change on a future ballot. If the mayor will not listen to employees and the public when there is obvious shame and shameful mismanagement and fiscal waste, then he should not keep the power to make these decisions. Do something. We have nowhere else to turn. The public, the employees, the humane community, and the animals, and yes, the city's budget, and whether its elected officials are respected for leadership, are counting on you. We have no voice, you do. We are counting on you to do the right thing. Thank you.
Okay. The reason why we're having these meetings, the first one was for the city employees, and the reason it was held in the evening was because city employees work in the day, and we conducted even on overtime for the city crew that was there, excluding the employees from animal services. It's not a venting process. When this was brought up in council, as the chair of the personnel committee, I told the council president I would have hearings on this, complete a report, and submit it to the mayor's office, which we're going to do. The reason this meeting is held in the afternoon is for the public's convenience. We don't have the resources to bring the city crews in overtime because of the budgetary problems. So I wanted to clarify some of those issues that were brought up, why we're having it in the afternoon, why not in the evening, et cetera. And the purpose for this is for the public's participation. Our next speaker is Phyllis Doherty.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm going to start right off by making a suggestion rather than just reiterating complaints. This is no longer a charter department, as you know. It can be done away with, moved, whatever, merely by an ordinance. I think that you should seriously consider moving the entire department as a whole under the police department, as most of the animal control departments actually are in the entire country. It's much more satisfactory. You can do away with Mr. Boakes, Mr. Barth, and Ms. Davis' salary right away. Put it under someone that is geared to law enforcement, which Ed Boakes is not. This is a public safety department. For the first time, he admitted that at the last meeting, said it's the first time it's ever been a public safety department, only because he threatened the mayor's office that if they didn't get their budget, they wouldn't be out there to take the animals out of the fire. Under the police department, the employees would have an opportunity for promotion. They would have an opportunity to restore the reserved officer corps, which would help them, all of the things that they really need. It would give them discipline, training, opportunities. And you could move, you have managers that if you lose them right now, the entire internal structure of this department will collapse. And many of them are very, very near the point of retiring or leaving the department. So I really want to urge you, this is a personnel, this is something that the council can do, to really think about it. It works phenomenally in all the areas around here, Santa Ana, Santa Monica, Burbank, all of the really, really good animal control departments are under the police department. I want to just give you a concrete example of the management of the department right now. At the commission meeting yesterday, there are 84 ACO positions, of which only 53 are filled. I'm going to give you an example of how it's managed. This is right off, this is the report the department provided when Ms. Reardon asked for statistics. This is how they provided them. At the Harbor Shelter, In April of 2008, there were 154 activities, they called it. We have 4 full-time animal control officers assigned there. That would be 1.2 calls per officer per day. Now, not every officer is there all day, but this is such a waste of city resources, such a waste of talent. These officers would like to be out doing their job. They could be licensing, they could be addressing issues in the community. 1.2 calls a day for an officer that starts at $45,000 a year is serious, serious mismanagement, and I know they have tried to do more. The last thing I'm going to bring up is about the licensing, something near and dear to your hearts. This is the 67-page report that was just written by the department, which has no budget, to tell you why they can't license. Mr. Boakes is asking you in this to change. We can't do anything until state law is changed so that we don't need rabies shots. Municipal code is changed so that we don't have to license except once in the lifetime of the animal. And also until you give him control of all fees, setting all fees every year. This is not the first time that he has wanted to get control of the money, all the money in the department. And it's very, very dangerous. In my opinion, I think that he is just writing these things, among others, so that he will get in his 5 years, get vested in the retirement system, and all of these plans and programs seem to stretch out another 2 years, which is all he needs to accomplish that. So I think there's some really serious things. I attend every commission meeting. Except when I got hit by the forklift, I haven't missed a commission meeting in over 10 years. So I'm not telling you hearsay, this is what's happening.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Martin Waterman. And I'm giving people a little extra time, but please, when that buzzer goes, wrap up your discussion.
Thank you. My name is Martin Waterman, and I'm a mobile pet adoption volunteer and have been since 1996. And I have a lot of personal experience including private meetings with Mr. Boakes. And at the last meeting, the one we had in Van Nuys, you had asked for some specific examples of what we might refer to as being mismanagement. We were holding a pet adoption along with best friends in Westchester, what they would call a super adoption, where we even had rescue groups and everything. Mr. Boakes came up to the mobile pet adoption volunteers and told us that probably one of the most frequent questions we get asked by potential volunteers is the animal housebroken. Some are, some aren't. And most of them, there's no way to know, particularly if it strays or anything like that. He told us to tell every potential volunteer or people who were asking that all animals were housebroken, but that they might backslide a little bit because they had been in the shelter, and so maybe there might be a little problems, but it would be okay because they had all been housebroken. Now, all of us who are experienced realize that this is a big mistake, because all this does is you tell the people the people adopt the animal, they take it home, the animal makes a mess on the floor in the living room, the animal comes back. Right. It just doubles the problems. And there are other volunteers who would tell you that this expressly happened, because he didn't just tell me this, he told Rennell Black that he told a whole group of us to tell all potential adopters that, yes, these animals are all housebroken. So
he lied?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's just to give you, that's not hearsay or, a generalization or anything like that. He told us to tell potential adopters that all animals were housebroken. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Maria Take? Hello.
Hi. My name is Marie Atake. I served as a commissioner on the Board of Animal Services from 2005 to 2007. First off, I found it a little disturbing that this hearing and a meeting for the elephant issue are scheduled at the same time, because it divides people who care about the animals.
We had no idea that was going to be scheduled
Right.
today. That was supposed to be handled a long time ago. And for the record, for Free and Billy.
Right, yes. So,
Okay.
that's great. So, well, I just wanted to bring to your attention that if, we have less than expected people, that's why, so.
Okay.
Also, when I spread the word about today's hearing, Many of the shelter volunteers said that they cannot attend or cannot
Okay,
speak.
what I want to hear about is the problems with Mr. Boakes, not about people who aren't here. So if you can get to the point of people who have
Well,
issues.
what I was trying to say was, as a general manager of a city department, it is Mr. Book's duty to make the correct environment where volunteers feel appreciated, not threatened. So I just wanted to make sure that many of them feel threatened, and those are the constituents of this city that are giving the time and an energy and an efforts, and many of them pay for the animals' care out of their pocket, and then there's no appreciation by the general manager. Now, people who are not necessarily rescuers but members of the general public, as you know, have reported a lot of complaints against the way the city shelters operated. And then the most important matter is that the current management seems to forget that they are ultimately accountable. And it makes no sense that they just blame employees when their leader is failing to provide instructions or providing instructions with a lot of inconsistencies and conflicts. And it is the management who has to make sure employees are doing what they're supposed to do. Mr. Boakes and Ms. Barth clearly have not done that. Only with adequate management, we can expect better results of operations. Unlike the newly reported 30% increase of the kill rate, or the numerous failures outlined by Controller Chick's recent audits of the animal services operations. As a taxpayer, I would like to demand that our money is spent on paying the managers who are capable of doing their jobs properly and ethically. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Andy Perlman.
Hi, thank you very much. My name is Andy Perlman. I'm also a volunteer with Marie's Dog Rescue Group, Forte. I'm not really familiar with a lot of the operational issues that people are here to complain about or comment on. So the one thing that I've been aware of, which makes me crazy when I see it, and I brought some pictures here, I can pass around and leave with you if you want to. And that is the new shelter in West LA, and I understand the Valley as well, has no solid covering over much of the area where the animals are kept, especially the large dogs. And when it rains, they get wet, or they can get wet, as will the staff. Of the 5 photographs I have there, and they're all speak for themselves pretty much, I think, because I put text on them. The first one was from opening day at West LA, when the staff put plastic sheeting across the back, that's the staff access area, to keep the animals from getting wet, but there's no way for the staff to keep from getting wet, so they're probably less inclined to go actually care for the animals. And the rest of the photographs I took just last week during the rainstorm, and you can see there's water dripping off the top of the cages right into the dog runs.
Yeah.
A simple, large patio-type awning over all of this area would solve that problem. I don't know why it was not in the original design when it was approved, and why it hasn't been addressed since. But it seems to me that this would be a good example of management not paying attention to an issue.
This is the West LA shelter.
That's at West LA, yeah. I wrote on the back West LA and when they were taken.
Well, I did an issue on the other shelters where they had this problem.
Oh, okay.
We did a motion and had a hearing on the problem and
Okay.
took some time and money to correct it.
Well,
So I was aware, I wasn't aware of West LA, but I was aware of some of the other
I'm
new
not aware of
shelters.
the other shelters because I haven't been.
Same problems.
Right, okay. Well, this is as of last week, so that would certainly be a situation that I would like to see addressed and
You want to
corrected.
submit that for the record?
Sure, you can have those, and I appreciate it.
So I've got concerns about the flaws because there was a bond measure that passed that caused the dollars to be spent, and there was concerns that it wasn't built to a proper specification. Not only that, but also an issue with the sun and the heat with the animals.
Well, which we have a lot of sun, and obviously there's very little area for shade there.
Right.
But I'm mostly concerned with the water aspect.
Oh, you're right.
There's just
And-
no way to get to them without getting wet.
And I am well aware of that. I didn't know that it was universal with all the shelters, but apparently it is.
Okay.
But we've taken that cause forward for correction. And obviously, when they built the facility, I understand they used a Pasadena plan, and the Pasadena plan may have had some extra component that we didn't have here. But Bureau of Engineering testified at a previous committee on this particular matter.
Okay.
And then they were going to make corrections. But I don't recall if West LA was part of it. I do know that the other shelters that were brought up were going to be corrected. So there's one more we'll follow up. I appreciate that.
Okay,
But again, the manager needs to make sure that his shop's in order.
that was the point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Stacy, Stacy Daly, or Dancy? Stacy something. Dancy, not something. What is it, Dancy? Yes, sir. Okay, Stacy Dancy. Trying to read the printing. There you go. Go ahead, Stacy.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Stacy Dancy. Because Ed Boakes and Linda Barth are still in charge of LA Animal Services, the residents of the city of Los Angeles are being robbed of the animal care and control services they deserve. Because they have failed to gain the trust of many of the department's employees, Boakes and Barth have been unable to earn their respect. When employees lack trust in and respect for management, it is extremely difficult for them to demonstrate ambition and exercise initiative. Having so clearly and so publicly announced their despondency, it is inconceivable to believe that such a significant number of the workers and almost every one of their supervisors are able to perform their duties to the best of their abilities. Because the working environment for nearly 200 others is stagnant. The residents of the city deserve more from LA Animal Services than many of its employees are willing to give under this management team. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And for the record, you are in uniform, but I assume you're off duty.
Pardon me?
I said, for the record, you are in animal services uniform, but I assume you're off duty.
Absolutely.
Okay, I wanted that on the record. Daniel Gus?
That is also the case with all the employees here today.
Well, I'll have each one in uniform make that comment, just to assure them the protections. Daniel, good afternoon.
Thank you, council members. Thank you for holding this follow-up meeting, and I will be uncharacteristically brief.
Well, that'll be a pleasure and a change.
If I were to find the best thing about Ed Boakes is that he is a showman, but that is all Ed Boakes is, just a showman, like a Panamanian dictator putting his faces all over the shelters, but not actually producing the results. He'll juggle the names of programs, the names of the new shelters, but council member, you warned him to get in the boat and row, or else he's not going to get to shore. And he has been paddling away outside of the boat for 3.5 years now. The city does change its leadership when it needs to. Admiral Brewer was a good man, but he was moved out because he wasn't getting the job done. Even Controller Chick's audits show you time and again this is an operational failure. We have big crowds at City Council. I watch City Council avidly on Channel 35.
I get your emails.
You know you do. Tenny Pierce has a big crowd show up. The Jameel Shaw incident has a big crowd show up. But when do you ever get a huge crowd for a GM? Only with Ed Boakes. Last time we had hundreds of people showing up, and no one had anything positive to say about Mr. Boakes. The shelters are packed, the morale is dead, and it doesn't matter who's mayor. The change needs to be made, and if Mayor Villaraigosa does it, I'm fine with that too. But the change has to be made by somebody, and on top of that, I also think the commission needs to be changed because the commission has been neutered so that it doesn't challenge Mr. Boakes, and it's not working. It's failing. And as council members, you're the mayor's peers. Please don't bring the issue to deputy mayors. Please speak to the mayor as your peer and say, look, this is time enough. Stuff has to change. I have 1 minute left.
I will be submitting a report to the mayor from this committee.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Gina Gersten? No Gersten? Well, is she here or not here? Oh, then come up. You gonna talk or not? Okay. All right, the next one, Elisa Jans. Which one are you?
Lisa has her first day of
Multiple personalities. So you're going to be Lisa now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, can you hear
All right,
me?
listen up. We're going to hear from somebody.
I'm speak. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Lisa is in her first day on her job, a new job, so
So who are you?
I'm Panina Gersten.
Okay. Oh, you're the first one.
I'm the first one, right? So I'm just going to read an email she wrote me to read for
All
you
right,
guys.
go ahead.
okay? Despite the fact that LAAS general manager and 2 assistant GMs are not doing the unwanted animals, sorry, I ran up here, of Los Angeles City any favors in their lack of leadership skills, this is by far, in my 10 years of rescuing in Los Angeles City area, the best caring staff that LAAS has ever had. We have gone through quite a few GMs, and for the staff of LAAS and the rescue community to agree on the incompetence of the present GM and assistant GMs is unprecedented and has to say a great deal. Any success that LAAS has had is not contributed to the present GM leadership or lack of, but to the dedication of the staff working under him despite the roadblocks he continually puts in their way. We all understand that the cuts have to be made in every area, but why cuts being made to spay-neuter voucher programs? Our group issues vouchers to the public. I emailed my contact at LAAS on 1/15/09 asking for more books and was told that there will be none available and I should get back to them end of February, and maybe they will have something for me. This is an important part of program budget. Important program. Budget was cut. Where has the money gone for this important program? Maybe paying for the 6-figure salaries of a GM and 2 assistants is unnecessary. There is no leadership at the helm of LAAS that means that each shelter fends for itself. Without good leadership and respect for one leader, there is no progress. It is obvious that the staff of LAAS has no confidence in their GM. The present GM is what I call a sandwich man, taking the glory of the compliments on the layer on top, no substance in the middle, does not really care how a process gets done, and he's just the filling, and the person taking responsibility in the limelight for the end process bottom layer. A GM should be the top filling and bottom, the whole sandwich, and not just the 2 ends. I was amazed to see so many long-term LAA staff speak out against at the present GM. Those actions alone should say how delusional LAS is. Lisa, life of pause.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sherry Brewer. Wait, she hasn't said anything yet. At least let her say something.
She will.
She strolled up to the chair, you know?
Well, you got my name
All right.
correctly, Sherry Brewer. I'm a volunteer with LA Animal Services, and my basic concern is what is the taxpayer money being spent on at the shelters. I have been watching grading go up on the kennel doors, which is jeopardizing not only the employees and the volunteers, but the animals as well. They are being...
What's the grading for?
Well, I have pictures of that as well. I understand that the city's concerned about liability, people putting their hands in the cages, despite warnings and other things that are all around the kennels. But with this new grading system that they've put up, the animals are being deprived of all sensory stimulation. The employees, the volunteers that have to go in and take the dogs out to socialize with them, we are not aware of their temperament because we can no longer get down and see how they react to us. If we're asked to take a big dog out to show somebody, we don't know if they're afraid of the leash, that they might bolt out, bite our arm. Generally, I just think it's very poor planning for the animals there and for the employees and the volunteers that work with the dogs at all times.
These are being put on new facilities or old facilities?
This is at East Valley now.
The new facility?
This is a new facility
So
now.
they have the cage, but now they're putting grading on top of that.
Right.
And they said the reason for that?
Apparently, somebody put their hand in a cage and it was bit, which obviously, nobody wants that to happen, but, there's been requests for security cameras to go up to be able to watch people as they go in. There are signs throughout the kennels, telling people you don't put your hands in the cages. People have to take some responsibility.
So because of someone putting their hand in, was it a child or an adult?
You know, I don't even know. I was told that it was a liability issue, but I think now it's more of a liability issue for everybody that works with the animals. My sentiments. The other thing that I find with Ed Boakes is his euthanasia rates and telling people that they're not going to be done, the dogs aren't going to be put down for time or space. Just this past week, a dog that was being networked by a volunteer was put on our list to come out to a mobile adoption, being heavily networked, and on Tuesday the dog was killed at the shelter, despite 15 empty kennels. When another volunteer wrote to Ed and asked about it, or when the shelter was called about it, we were told time and space. Dog was not aggressive, it was not ill except for a minor ear infection. Is that it?
Go ahead and finish up.
No, and
that way you can get a proper applause.
Okay. There was another dog that we were networking heavily, which is what I do with all the network groups, and it was scheduled, or it was on the red list. And one of the volunteers wrote and asked Ed, why is this dog going to be put down? There's empty kennels. And this dog came in after the fires. It was a disaster dog. Instead of explaining that the necessity of possibly putting the dog down, he responded back to her and emailed the PR department, which I don't know if everybody knows that there's now a PR firm, and a few other people saying, this would be a great story for the media, let's look in on it. To me, there's just no compassion. There's no compassion, and I just think we need somebody to oversee and to respond to questions that we all have and to explain where our money's going. I don't get paid for what I do, but my taxpayer money obviously is going through for some of the things that I'm not happy about it.
Have you ever met with Mr. Boakes and made any of these comments to him?
I'm
Have you
sorry?
ever met with Mr. Boakes and made any of these comments to him?
Oh, yeah.
So you've made these comments to him?
Oh, we've had a long-standing relationship.
He suspended her
I
from
was
the law
suspended.
for a long
So sir, you had your chance. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're still a volunteer?
Yeah, I was reinstated.
Okay. So you were a good girl and you came back.
I've always been a good girl. They
Well,
just
you were a
haven't
naughty girl
acknowledged
when you
it.
got dismissed.
Some people think.
So you guys have had your discussions and issues over this?
Yes.
Okay.
And generally, if I have something to say, I will write him personally and not, spread it out. And,
Then it goes on the blog?
yeah,
Okay.
pretty much.
All right, thank you. Now you can applaud. Thank you very much. If you have any questions along the way, let me know. If you have any questions along the way. Have you- Karen Snook? Hey.
I'll be brief, too, because I don't have much to add in particular to what
If
I've already
you
said.
folks in the back can be quiet, Julie Butcher's back there, and she'll kick you out if you're not quiet. Thank you, Julie. Along with the sergeant at arms, wherever he is. All right, he's there.
He's busy kicking somebody else
He's
out.
trying to keep him quiet. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
My experience, I've been rescuing from LA Animal Services for about 10 years. And so I've been working closely with particularly the East Valley Shelter for over 10 years and had experience with several different GMs. And it's granted a very difficult job, and we're never thrilled with any of them. No one's perfect. However, I have worked very closely with the staff of the LA Animal Services and had very good relationships with them. And as a rescuer, I've been considered to be, a very responsible and cooperative and effective rescuer. My experience under Ed Boakes is that I have never seen the staff, employees, and volunteers so frustrated, so confused, so overwhelmed, and so unhappy. And that translates into very poor service for those of us in the public and the rescue community trying to work with them to get the animals out of the shelter. The consequences for me particularly and precisely is I used to rescue anywhere between 300 and 400 animals a year from East Valley alone. Last year in 2008, I think I rescued about 75. And I get my rescues from other places now because it's just too difficult and impossible to work with these people who just haven't got a clue anymore. It's not their fault. This is a management problem, not an employee problem. I know these people, they're great people, but they are so confused. And I hear that Ed Boakes tries to hide his issues behind saying, oh, it's the staff's problem, and they're messing up. And as a trainer and a person who is a professional in leadership development for large corporations, I think that particular excuse is about as lame as any I've ever heard. As any manager is supposed to do, any manager worth his salt would never make that as an excuse. And any manager worth his salt would never accept that as an excuse from a manager underneath him. That's what they get paid for, is making things clear, making goals correct, and making your people online and engaged with your policies.
Have you ever seen the department manual?
No, I have not. Although I know that
a lot of people
policies and
haven't.
memos change like nobody's business, because every time I come in there, once again, it's the confusion. I don't know. Did you get that memo? No. You're supposed to do it this way? No, that way. No. Oh, my. Yeah.
We've heard that before, too.
Oh, yes. I have
Okay.
seen it. Unlimited. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. Veronica Perry. Veronica Perry. You're off duty, I assume?
Yes,
Thank you. I'm only doing that to protect your career,
thank you,
because mine's secure.
thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Well, sort of.
My name is Veronica Perry. I'm an animal care technician at East Valley Animal Shelter. The reason why I'm come up here now to talk, I want to kind of finish what we started about the grading at the shelters. As an employee there, when the grading started to go up on the
Grade
doors,
on the
grades,
cages.
right.
Okay.
I noticed that it was very difficult to work with, very difficult to get in and out of the cage. Reaching over, reaching around. If you have to get out of the cage quick, it's impossible.
You work at the shelter?
I work at the shelter.
Okay.
It's very difficult to see the dogs, to see what their behavior is, and especially at night. During feeding time, we feed them at night. Most of the time it's light out, but during the winter hours, it's dark. You can't see where the dog is. You can't see what he's doing or anything like that. And basically, what I'm concerned about is when we told our supervisors and they told admin, they stopped doing it. But then they came back and did it again, started redoing it and had a quick fix for it. Cutting holes in the actual gate and not taking down the fence, and it didn't do any good, didn't make any difference.
Why did they start that project?
Well, see, that's what I don't know. They never came and talked to us about it. They said that it was to prevent people from getting bit. Now, as far as I've worked there, I don't recall maybe one or two people getting bit at the most. And I could see putting the grading up, but they never talked to us about it, never interviewed us, told us what would be a good idea, what would be safe, what would work for us and the public. We were never advised that it was going to be done. And then when we explained to them that it's dangerous and it's hard for us to work with the gates and the doors, it didn't seem to matter. They didn't take any advice from us on what would be safe for us and what would make us feel more comfortable. And that concerns me because I realized that there was money spent to do this.
Now, these are new shelters.
Yes.
That were built with the bond.
Yes.
Where they're leaking in the rain, where the rain comes in,
Right.
and then they have to put plastic sheeting. And then when the sun comes around, they've got to put something to protect the animal. These are new shelters,
Right.
not old shelters.
That is correct. That
So
is
now they're
correct.
putting grates on the
And
cages.
these grates, there are other types of grates that were put in when the shelter was built, and our puppy kennels, those would have worked fine. Safety-wise, seeing the dog and preventing people from sticking their hands in, those would have been perfect.
But you would think they would consider
You
that
think they
before they
would have
built
done
the
that or
place.
talked to us about it? We're the ones that on a daily basis open and close, go in and out of those kennels. And we are the one person, we are the people that need to be talked to about this. I feel that if we were consulted and if they sat down and talked to us and got our ideas, there could have been a lot of money saved. Half of the material.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Lori Boston? Boston?
No, those are the names of people who filled out cards. You wanted the cards that were
Okay.
filled out October
All right, so these were here last time, but they weren't called.
card from today.
And I'll read these names in the record after we hear from Zousa Blakely? How do you pronounce that first name? Zuja. Zuja Blakely. Okay, and then I'll read the names into those that, we have cards from last time that are not here today, so they're all on the record. Okay, go ahead.
Well, this isn't very long. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good afternoon. I've been out of rescue for a while, but I have for a long time, had been sort of the nemesis of LA Animal Services, and my goal has always been to see no kill achieved within LA Animal Services, and I found myself at odds usually with the shelters, mainly because I think we were hopefully all working toward the same goal, but we couldn't really see eye to eye because things were polarized, mainly because management has been so poor. And I think that the main problem with Ed Boakes is that, or with anyone that doesn't have the no-kill vision, is that we're not going to get to that point. And, you know, we live in a city that is very progressive, perhaps the most progressive metropolis in the United States. And it's high time that we had no kill in LA. And frankly,
There's a difference between no kill and low kill.
yes,
I thought it was only one, but then I discovered there's two, no kill and low kill.
right. And I think low kill is sort of a cop-out, really.
Yeah.
I mean, there is no reason to kill. I mean, if you really look at the facts, it's just a matter of demographics. It's a matter of getting the animals placed. It's a matter of salesmanship. It's a matter of good management, frankly. It's been achieved. Nathan Winograd knows how to achieve it. He's available for consulting at all times. And there is just really no reason except the roadblock of poor management that is keeping Los Angeles from achieving no kill, not low kill. Low kill is simply, you know, okay, we'll get a couple of percentage points away, you know, lower kill. But that doesn't do it. We need to stop the killing once and for all, you know, and we need to be an example to the rest of the country. And we have so much excellent talent in Los Angeles, you know, people who know how to place animals, people who know the statistics, people who can do it honestly and do it effectively. We don't need to go get somebody from across the country and somebody who really hasn't proven themselves, you know. We have so many people here, and we can assemble teams here, you know, people who can head LA Animal Services and take it legitimately and once and for all, finally, to no kill. There is no reason not to achieve it, you know. Let's see, I think it was Victor Hugo who said that there's nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come. And I think what you're really seeing in the humane community in Los Angeles, whether they know it or not, and within the shelters, is an idea whose time has come. And we need to rid ourselves of those who are obstructing the will of the people. And the will of the people will be achieved. You know, both the people that work in the shelters and the people who rescue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, these are folks who we have cards. Apparently they're not here. Lori Alston, if you are here, then we'll hear from you. Michael Bell, Trudy Claiborne, Jeffrey De La Rosa, Penny Dermer, Fran Einberg, Guadalupe Olvera Finley, Jane Garcia, Lisa Goldberg.
No, I'm here.
Who?
Lisa.
Lisa, okay, come on up then. Marlene Gordon, Laurel Kinder, Catherine Molinar, Andrea Nussbaum, Joanna Hatjuv, Jennifer Pryor, Scott Sorrentino, and Dina DeCoris. Okay, so you're the only one that's here from these cards, and you got it.
Ready?
Go ahead. Yes.
Okay.
Good afternoon, and thank you for allowing me to speak to you today solely as a citizen and as a taxpayer. Pardon that I am more than just a bit nervous, but...
Don't be nervous. This is a friendly Personnel Committee meeting.
Well, I don't know about that.
There's armed officer back there. Councilmember Parks and I, both former cops, carry guns, but don't be intimidated or fearful.
I know Brian will protect me, so I'm pretty much...
Brian carries a gun, too. Doesn't shoot, but he carries one.
Hey, he needs to help.
All right.
Okay.
Is that okay, Zena? Zena's our city attorney who's always telling me to push the envelope to the edge. So I go over the cliff. It's all right. See, don't be afraid.
We'll cover Brian.
We can get the job done and still have some humor left.
Okay.
Okay.
Again, okay. In April of 2007, a dog was nearly decapitated after being attacked for a second time in just over a week, and another died of strangulation on a wrought iron fence trying to escape a rescuer's home. In October of 2007, a dog was mauled at her home, received 49 bite wounds, and died. In November of 2007, a special needs dog was mauled and bled to death on her living room floor. Another dog was mauled shortly thereafter and received emergency care. In January of 2008, all at her home, a small Tibetan Terrier was ripped apart by 3 bully breeds in the backyard of this woman's residence. A neighbor took pictures and reported the attack to Animal Services, which took an hour and a half to respond. The dog died. This was the 5th mauling at this woman's home in 9 months.
A rescuer.
A local rescuer resident, dog owner. Shortly after the January 2008 attack, 100 pages of documentation, I believe you have a file via Brian. I left a file for Mr. Parks and Mr. Cardenas at the last meeting, was provided to Mr. Boakes, and an investigation was requested. During the 5 months investigation, Mr. Boakes requested the file 3 times, and we provided it each time. In June of 2008, Mr. Boakes concluded that based on their investigation, there was not enough evidence to bring any charges or levy any punishment, that the evidence was stale, was not actionable, and the case was closed. We requested the records of that investigation under CPRA. Upon review, it was clear no investigation was ever conducted. Not one person was ever interviewed, and the file log conspicuously makes no mention of the 5 maulings noted above. With no punishment or confirmed protective measures in place, Mr. Boakes reinstated the rescuer's New Hope privileges in an April 25th, 2008 letter, which is also in your file. Mr. Boakes stated Animal Services would follow up at the rescuer's home on an ongoing basis. LAS did not until a neighbor's late August call about some additional activity. We were unable to get any response from Mr. Boakes to our many requests to have the investigation reopened. We saw the file, had nothing in it. Ed granted a meeting, finally, with a couple of us on October 15th of 2008. In that meeting, after Kathy Davis tried to claim a statute of limitations prevented them from moving forward, Ed agreed that the investigation was not handled properly and reopened it. When I asked him point blank if he ever read our file, he told us no, that he had people to handle that. What has happened in the 4 months since, given today is the 27th, mirrors the first investigation. To my knowledge, virtually no witnesses have been questioned. As you have seen from the certified letter paper trail that's gone to your office, I have received documented misinformation from the current LAS administration, the 3, Boakes, Davis, and Barth. I have been told the investigation is ongoing when at least one file says it is not and actually contains blatantly false information about the January attack. It says the case is closed. In fact, an investigator conceded Animal Services has made some mistakes. Mr. Boakes has recently stated to more than one person the case is closed, while claiming that this rescuer in question, both personally and via her rescue group, has been a do not adopt since January of 2008. This is not true. The file you have contains an April 25th, 2008 letter from Ed stating the New Hope status, stating the reinstatement of the New Hope status and the ability to remove dogs from the city shelters. I also have a copy of an October 21st, 2008 New Hope list, which clearly shows the rescue group is able to remove dogs from the city shelters. Conversely, Ms. Davis and Ms. Barth have claimed in writing to me and verbally to others the case is still ongoing. Some confusion. I have asked for the second investigation file under CPRA.
Both Barth and Davis have refused to give it to me. In 2 letters, they list CPRA codes that they allege support cause for them not to provide the second investigation file. I wrote back, cited the exact codes that they referenced, and proved beyond doubt that the codes in no way support or reference their claims. Basically, they lied. Animal Services is well beyond the legal statute for providing the file under CPRA. I will continue to request the file from Bogues, Barth, and Davis, and have escalated this to the Governor's Office and the State Attorney General. I have spent months documenting this case. You guys get letters from me regularly. I've written to the city councilors who once stood up and said they would help in any way possible, but only one consular's office has had the courtesy to return some communications. Thank you to Mr. Zine and Mr. Perry. It is the responsibility of Animal Services to conduct investigations regarding animal cruelty and neglect. Please look at the photos, look at the file and current correspondence, and tell me how and why this was swept under the rug and why these 3 people are still in charge at Animal Services. Please look into this matter and not just talk about doing something. Please. Thank you for your time.
Did you contact the Animal Cruelty Task Force?
There isn't one anymore. I was told it was disbanded. Everybody has been thrown out to
The
the shelter.
LAPD?
What? Mm-hmm.
The LAPD component of the Animal Cruelty Task Force?
I was told the Cruelty Task Force was disbanded.
Okay.
I've talked with Aborn Corey.
Yes, yes.
Carol Aborn Corey.
Hold on a second, folks. She's the captain.
And
Carol Aborn, the Carol Aborn.
Corey, at one
Yes,
point
she's the
I spoke with
captain.
her, and I think I spoke with somebody else, and there's gradations. I mean, the way that Animal Cruelty Task Force, when it was in place through the LAPD, the way I was told was that it handled mainly dog fighting, really excessive, aggravated, repetitive, ongoing
Like
type
the Vic,
things.
the football player,
Exactly.
that kind of stuff.
Exactly. That they, and I wish I had my notes at.
You heard that they're out of business?
I was told Animal Cruelty Task Force was disbanded. I was told it 2 weeks ago.
Because it hasn't been around that long to be disbanded.
I was told that the officers were disseminated into some of the shelters.
Okay.
And I heard a conversation with one that was in one of the shelters.
Okay, we'll find out.
Yeah,
Find out.
but when I spoke with Corey and I had spoken with somebody else, I think it was Morena maybe, you know, he had said to me, when you're looking at it, you've got to look at it at an excess level. I mean, is it of the VIX quality?
Right.
Is it of the continual on and on and on and on and on, where there is continual operations at that level? I mean, 4 incidences, they said, wasn't aggravated was the word they used. So, you know, the file, my understanding from the file was that when the first investigation was done, the person who did the investigation sent it back to the East Valley shelter, said there was evidence of negligence and abuse, and they sent it back to be processed, and then Ed just buried it.
Okay, here's what,
Yeah.
Mr. Parks, you have any comments before I make some recommendations?
Oh, no, go ahead. You're ready.
Okay, thank you for your testimony.
Okay, thanks.
So,
I appreciate it.
appreciate you coming down. Okay, there's a few options that we have, and after hearing the testimony from the employees and the testimony from the public, the recommendation I'm going to make, and City Attorney, correct me if we're going off a track, but due to the compelling circumstances, report back from Animal Services regarding animal intake, kill rate, +1, -1 program, animal shelters exposure to elements, animal shelters cage grates, animal operational manual, department operational manual, animal cruelty investigation, the one that was just brought to our attention, and the animal task force, the animal cruelty task force, a report back from Animal Services for those particular matters, which will then come back to this committee, and then ultimately a letter that this committee will prepare, a document for the council and for the mayor and the Animal Services Commission, with the information we received from the first hearing, information we received from this hearing, and answers to the questions that we currently have, that we have uncertainty about. That's okay? Okay. Mr. Parks?
I just wonder, are you going to have another hearing? Is this the last one?
Well, this is the hearing that we've had for the public. We had the hearing for the employees, which you attended. What we're going to do is have Animal Services respond to the questions that we've posed. Is anyone here officially from Animal Services, representing the Department of Animal Services in an official capacity? Was that yes or no? Okay. So this correspondence will be sent to Animal Services General Manager, to the clerk's office with the minutes from this particular meeting. We will then get a reply from that prior to us sending the correspondence to the mayor and to our colleagues on the council. Again, the mayor has the authority to hire and to fire. An individual who is terminated has an opportunity to go before the council for reinstatement, and that's up to the individual. So I've got concerns, and I've been very adamant and very vocal about my personal feelings on the department and the lack of leadership in the department. I don't think it's any secret. But for this particular committee, as the chair of the Personnel Committee, I want to gather the facts. And both of us come from a law enforcement background. You gather the facts before you make a determination. So that's where I'm coming from in my particular. It's not like the governor of Illinois. Mr. Parks.
Yeah, let me just ask something to the public that came. I think this is my second or third round with general managers of animal services, at least in the council. And we've heard over time a litany of complaints and concerns and issues. And some, I think on the last time we had to go around about a general manager, I think I recognize some folks that are here today that were not pleased with him. One of the things I'm wondering about is is there a prior general manager that there was some confidence in? Is there something? Let me get finished. Because it would be so much helpful rather than having a litany of complaints. Is there something that we're looking for, or is it something that goes on? Is there a general manager qualifications or qualities that are important to you or the community that monitors the animal shelter? But again, we've had an overabundance of complaints about different issues, but the issue that I'm concerned about, they sound very similar to the last two general managers, at least, by groups that came in and said very similar things. And it makes it very difficult in trying to assess whether we're dealing with the issues of management. Is it the position is such that we can't please everyone and groups find it difficult working with each general manager? Do we get another general manager and a portion or splinter of this group and others come back a year from now and say, these are the 12 concerns? And so the thing that I have difficulty figuring out is what are the qualities, and it would be helpful if you as a body or individual would be able to give us some idea of what qualities you're looking, not generic people who love animals. I mean, talking about how this department should be managed. Is there a person on the horizon that's in the local community that fulfills that task? Do they have those qualities? These are things that are missing. Well, I mean, the thing is that, I mean, we don't want the flavor of the month that we get up and, applaud it. But it is important to us to understand it is a tough job. We all realize that. But is it something that we hear this, for me at least 3 times in 5 years, about general managers of the same department, of which there weren't a lot of people that showed up and said, we like what they did, but the complaints are very similar about morale, about whether animals were cared for, whether it was a no-kill, slow kill. And so the issues don't change, the faces do. And if you go through this process and the next general manager shows up, do they have a shelf life of 2 years or 3 years, or does it wear out his welcome in 8 months? I think it's something we have to seriously look at, because if you sit in some of these meetings, it sounds very, very similar to the last meeting that we went through with Mr. Stuckey, and I can't even remember who the general manager was before him, but we had similar concerns which prompted Mr. Stuckey coming. So it's something to think about as it relates to something very serious about general managers that we're not putting people in a position to fail, but do they have an expectation of serving a very diverse group of folks who have very diverse interests and views on how that department should run, and whether there is anybody out there that can service that issue without a similar meeting like this in 2 years. So that's my concern.
Phyllis Doherty filled out a card on the general comment. So if you have a comment under general comment?
I have something else.
It's general comment.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a general comment on something that I want to introduce you. I provided you with a form.
Yes, I have that.
That's being used. It's not only by animal control. This particular one I took from animal control, but we're so concerned about budget and about losing personnel for budget.
This is from Buena Park.
This is from Buena Park, but this can be used by every city. It's set up. It can be used for any type of animal control citation, any type of disturbing the peace by the police department, anyone. It does not preclude citing under penal code or any other type of violation. You have to cure. You can recite on a daily basis if necessary, because I know you've brought up the issue
We're not going to open up these comments again, folks. We've already had the testimony. Go ahead.
of trying.
Everybody running to get cards now. We're
Oh,
not gonna do
no.
that. Go ahead.
Yeah, you've brought up the issue of trying to find a way to recoup the cost for personnel going out.
Right.
It's already been perfected, and a lot of the cities are using it. This does not go to the courts. This comes back into the city coffers, because it's merely an administrative citations for the cost of sending out an
Like a
employee.
parking ticket. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly. So I
Thank
just
you.
wanted to share that with you.
Thank you. Okay, everybody's going to run and fill out general comment cards now, and we are not going to open up the testimony again for the issue that we've already heard. So I have a card from another person who testified, and now another lady's filling out a card. What we conducted this meeting for was to do a follow-up to the last meeting, which was held in the evening regarding the Animal Services Director. Now, if you have a comment, an issue that doesn't deal with Mr. Boakes or the operation of the Department of Animal Services, if you do, then this is not the time to talk about that. So does someone have a comment other than what we already discussed, Mr. Boakes and the management of the department? If you want to know who's going to win the Super Bowl, we can discuss that.
Yeah, I have licensed
Okay.
cats.
Okay, Maria Taki, you have another general comment, wherever you are? And then we'll talk about cats.
Thank you. I wanted to, I'm not talking about Mr. Box right now. However, I wanted to sort of respond to what Mr. Parks, Councilman Parks said. Something forward, something to recommend. And this is the unprecedented situation that the employees and the general public are on the same page. And I wanted to make a recommendation of Laurabeth Heisen for the next general manager.
Okay, that's inappropriate. We're not taking applications for general manager.
Okay. Okay. Well, just wanted to say this is an
Thank you.
unprecedented situation, not the same
I'd
as the
support Z-Woman for the next general manager. Okay, Laura Beth Heisen. But we're not going to be, we're not doing interviews here for general manager. Go ahead.
Good afternoon again, Laura Beth Heisen. I first want to make sure it's okay for me to say, I wanted to address the council members' comments about
We're
is
not in a
there...
give and take. If you have something on general comment.
I'm
I
sorry.
just threw that out for your consideration. I didn't want an immediate response.
All right.
It's not a debate time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
general comment. That was his personal feelings, and we respect that from my colleague.
Can I fill out a card again?
You want to talk about a cat?
Licensed cats, city needs money. Hell, it's 5 minutes now for parking downtown. It used to be 15 for a quarter.
Are we licensing cats?
No, the city spends a ton of money and personnel resources, time and money on cats.
Put that on the note.
There's no reason why it's a domestic
Okay.
pet. There's no reason why it shouldn't be
All right.
licensed just like a dog.
We do license dogs and horses, but not cats.
That's right.
Okay. I want to tell you about a little Labrador. I've got a son who's a pilot, and he was out in the desert flying, and he found an abandoned dog in Riverside. And this abandoned Labrador was abandoned probably because of some foreclosure. at a residence. It had the chip, checked it, tried to contact the people, long gone. Abandoned this beautiful little lab in the middle of nowhere. He rescued it. This dog is the sweetest dog. Just put out to pasture. Just unbelievable. Housebroken. Just absolutely phenomenal. And he's grown up with a lot of dogs, but he finds a dog in the middle of the desert and rescues it, and the dog will not leave his side. It was so shocked by what it went through.
Where did that happen?
Riverside. He was flying out in Riverside, saw this dog in the middle of the desert, and I don't know how he landed the plane and picked it up, but somehow he did. Eric, my young son.
It may be that theft report that we got.
That theft report. This is the cutest. I want to bring the dog to work. It's so cute.
Swooped in.
Miss Blakey
Yes,
Zazus?
Zuzha,
Zuza.
like Zuzha.
She lost $10 million, too.
She did?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't have 10 million to lose.
All right.
I don't have to worry about it.
You got 1 minute.
Thank you. I just wondered, is it appropriate to address the questions that Mr. Parks put?
No.
No?
No, it was just a comment he made, his general feeling on the particular matter.
Okay.
You can discuss it later if you wish, but not during the committee meeting.
Can you just tell me when it is appropriate to
Anytime you
address
want to see
that?
him outside this meeting, you can get him at the door before he gets out.
Okay, I'll nail him then.
But remember, he is armed. He's not dangerous, but he is armed.
What?
All right, that'll conclude the personnel meeting at 4:20. Thank you.